If you're anything like me, you've probably wondered, is Bitcoin a good investment? And the problem is everything out there is so polarized. There's so many people that are diehard. Bitcoin is the only option. You should only invest in Bitcoin. And then the other side of the coin is that those people are completely stupid and Bitcoin is a bad investment and super risky and it's going to go to zero. Well, I think there's a middle ground, and that's what I want to get into today. And I want to show you both sides of the equation from what I can see are the facts. So before we get into that, why should you listen to me? My name is Brennan Wiersma. I'm an airline pilot and high income professional that got into a bunch of student debt. And because of that, was forced to become an expert in personal finances, specifically my own personal finances. And I'm sharing my tips and tricks about how to get out of debt, do some real estate investing activities, real estate wholesaling, flipping. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to watch more. If not, carry on. So why do I think Bitcoin is a good investment? Well, there's actually a few very powerful arguments behind it. And something that was a surprise to me is that Bitcoin is the fifth largest investment or asset class in the entire world. Number 5. Now, if something was going to fail, do you think that there would be so much money in it, right? If there would be literally, it's a $1.2 trillion market cap. That means there is billions and billions of dollars from people that put their money into Bitcoin. And that is a lot of money that somebody would lose if Bitcoin went to zero. And I don't think that Bitcoin specifically, not talking about other cryptocurrencies, is as high of a risk as people might suggest, because there's a lot of powerful people that own Bitcoin, and powerful people don't like to lose their money. That's one thought. It's also becoming more widely adopted by corporations, by banks, and it's being accepted as a form of transacting over a much broader scale. For example, there's these things called spot ETFs. An ETF is an exchange traded fund. Basically takes a broad picture of a certain asset. For example, the S&P 500 is the top 500 companies. You get a piece of all those companies by just investing in their fund, and they try to match the S&P 500, and you invest in that fund. Example of that would be SPY. Well, these companies have now, banks, investors, BlackRock, they have what's called spot ETFs, where they buy Bitcoin at a spot price, and they allow you to buy that fund and in essence own Bitcoin. Whereas before that, you would have either had to get a cold wallet and jump through all these hoops or open up an account on a crypto exchange, which isn't necessarily too much of a hoop to jump through, but it just becomes more accessible to the general market. So that's a pro reason. Historically, it's one of the best performing assets over the last 15 years. It's also a debased currency, meaning over time, the value should go up, or rather, it's not going to go down based on excess supply of Bitcoin. The value might go down, but it's not going to be because of an inflationary cause. There's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be created. There's one that's a set amount. And there's actually an interesting history behind Bitcoin. The name you might have heard is Satoshi Nakamoto. I might be saying that wrong, but this mysterious figure that created Bitcoin. And there's only a set amount. Nobody knows who he is. And you can actually see on the blockchain, I believe, how many Bitcoin that he owns. And those may never be sold. But you can see there's only 21 million, and there's a process of mining that Bitcoin that increasingly becomes harder and harder and harder, to the point where mining like the last Bitcoin will take, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it'll take an extremely long period of time to get to all the Bitcoin into the market. Whereas, for example, the US dollar, it's inflationary, where the government can just print more of it and the value of it goes down, and it's only backed by the trust in the US government, and that what we say it's worth based on trade agreements that we have, or fill in the blank. Now with Bitcoin, it's a set number. So if people continue to find value in it, the value is going to go up based on how much of it is available and in the marketplace. Another pro for Bitcoin is that it's like that. You don't have to wait like you do in the banking system for a wire to be sent for 3 business days. And on the weekends, it's closed and you can't get your money. It's like, no, it's instant, which is something that should be the case, but it's not for the normal banking. And that that lends itself to inefficiency. It's a technology. Yeah, it's super quick. It's hyper liquid. People are constantly exchanging Bitcoin. If you have Bitcoin, you can sell it tomorrow and get your money. Now that's what I would say is the top reasons why you might want to buy Bitcoin. And there's Bitcoin people out there that could probably go on and on. From what I can understand, those are my top selling points about Bitcoin. The guy that you might want, if you want the best argument probably for Bitcoin, check out Michael Saylor. He's the founder of a company called MicroStrategy. Used to be a software company, turned into a private company that just buys Bitcoin, raises private money, buys more Bitcoin, and they're getting into some other products as well. But that's their whole deal. Is like they buy Bitcoin, and it allows other people to buy them and vicariously invest in Bitcoin in a sense. I'm not an expert on MicroStrategy, but that's their whole deal. Okay, so why should you not buy Bitcoin? Well, it's extremely volatile. If you're risk averse and you need your money quickly and are not willing to wait for the long term in order to really see this thing play out, you could be seeing fluctuations of 50 to 80% declines and then back up and back down. It's not for the faint of heart. I think Bitcoin reached its peak at around $124,000 per Bitcoin. And currently right now it's sitting closer to like $60,000. So some would say it's a good buying opportunity. Some would say this is just the beginning of the end and it's going to go to zero. But no one's denying that it's an extremely volatile asset. It doesn't produce any income. If you buy a piece of property, it's going to pay you rent. It's going to give you appreciation and depreciation. There's some tax benefits from owning Bitcoin if you take a loss and things like that, but not in the same sense of like doing a cost segregation study on a rental property and offsetting your W-2 income. Like that stuff's not going to be there. It's not going to give you a dividend because of earnings, and it's just you're investing in it, and its value is going to go up, but you're not going to get a lot of these other benefits. It's extremely difficult to actually determine its intrinsic value. People will argue about that, but I can't seem to say exactly what it is. Like, for example, the dollar used to be backed by gold. There's the value. There's the intrinsic value. Real estate, it's a place people live in it. There's the value. Bitcoin, yeah, it's like you can transact quickly with it and some of these other things, but that's all just because people say it's something you can do that with. Like, what if everybody decides tomorrow that Bitcoin sucks? Like, it's not going to have any intrinsic value. You can't live in a Bitcoin. So there's one thought. Governments could, as it becomes more adopted, governments could impose more regulations and restrictions on it. That's part of the benefit right now is it's pretty decentralized and not controlled by anybody. But as it becomes more adopted, you might start to lose some of those other components to it. People use Bitcoin to do illegal transactions and things like that. It's very hard to track Bitcoin. You can steal money from somebody if you get their cold wallet, and it's just basically a lost cause. It has that element to it because it's so decentralized. People talk about quantum computing, that the blockchain might get hacked by quantum computers and nobody's Bitcoin is safe. That's another reason. Returns may be smaller going forward. It's like if you're not already, and at the beginning, it's already, everyone's already bought the Bitcoin, the growth might start to slow down. That's another reason. Yeah. I would say, as far as I can think of, those are my biggest reservations. Now, there's probably a lot more that goes into this. From the research that I've done into it, I would say, to wrap this up, there are different ways to go about it. In my opinion, I don't believe there's no place for Bitcoin in your investment portfolio. I don't believe that it's a sure thing that it's going to go to the moon and you should only invest in Bitcoin. But 10% of your portfolio may be a good strategy. So if you found any value in this, comment below if you own Bitcoin or not. Please like the video, helps the algorithm, all that good stuff. If you want to join my free school community where I do mentorship on how to set up a budget, how to manage your own personal finances, even talk a little bit about real estate. I bring millionaires into the school community for live calls. If you're interested in any of that, the link's in the description. Would love to get to know you, and I'll see you in the next one.